Welcome to Mr. Yusa English, your go-to place for powerful English storytelling. Whether you want to improve your English listening skills, learn new vocabulary, or simply enjoy beautiful stories that touch the heart and inspire the mind, you're in the right place. Today, I have a deeply moving story for you titled The Last Lantern. It's a tale of loss, despair, resilience, and the incredible power of small lights working together. Sit back, relax, maybe close your eyes, and let this story transport you to a small village by the wild sea. Let's begin. In a peaceful yet rugged coastal village called Seabrook, where the salty wind never stopped whispering secrets to the cliffs, there lived a man named Elias. For more than 20 years, Elias had served as the lighthouse keeper. This responsibility had been passed down through 3 generations, from his grandfather to his father, and finally to him. Every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the ocean in shades of orange and purple, Elias would begin his sacred routine. He climbed the 187 narrow, spiraling stone steps inside the tall white lighthouse. His legs knew every crack and curve. At the top, he carefully polished the giant glass lens until it sparkled, checked the oil levels, and lit the powerful lamp. That bright, sweeping beam of light became a silent guardian. It cut through the thickest fog and the blackest night, warning ships away from the deadly sharp rocks that hid just beneath the waves. Many captains had written letters of thanks to Elias. Fishermen in the village felt safe, knowing that Uncle Elias was always watching over them from his tower. The children of Seabrook adored him. They would run along the beach waving their small hands whenever they saw his figure moving against the sky. "There's Uncle Elias," they shouted with joy. For Elias, this work was far more than a job. It was his calling, his identity, his way of serving the community he loved so deeply. He often told himself, "As long as my light burns brightly, no soul will be lost to the sea." Life in Seabrook flowed like the tides, predictable, steady, and full of quiet beauty. But everything changed on one terrible winter night that the villagers would remember for generations. It started with dark clouds gathering on the horizon. By evening, the wind had grown into a furious roar. The sea, usually calm and gentle, transformed into a monster. Waves rose as tall as houses, crashing against the cliffs with thunderous force. Rain poured down in sheets so heavy that it was difficult to see even a few meters ahead. Elias refused to abandon his post. He fought bravely against the storm, tying himself to the railing so he wouldn't be swept away. He struggled to keep the lamp burning as the wind and rain tried desperately to extinguish it. Then, without warning, a massive bolt of lightning struck the top of the lighthouse with a deafening crack that shook the entire cliff. The old wooden structure trembled violently. Elias heard a deep, painful groan from the tower itself. In one horrifying moment, the lighthouse collapsed and crashed into the raging ocean below. Elias was thrown into the icy, churning water. The waves tossed him like a small leaf. He fought with all his remaining strength, swallowing salt water, his lungs burning. After what felt like an eternity, the sea finally spat him out onto the sharp, rocky shore the next morning. When the first light of dawn broke through the clouds, Elias slowly opened his eyes. His body was covered in bruises and cuts. He turned his head toward the cliff and froze in disbelief. The lighthouse, his home, his pride, the symbol of safety for the entire village, was completely gone. Only scattered stones and broken pieces of wood remained, scattered like the bones of a fallen giant. The village woke up to tragedy. Several fishing boats had been lost in the storm. Some fishermen never returned to their families. Widows and children cried openly in the streets. As the days passed, grief slowly turned to anger. People began to whisper about Elias. The light went out when we needed it most, they said. He failed to protect us. The guardian of the coast let us down. These words cut deeper than any physical wound. Elias's heart shattered. Overwhelmed by guilt and shame, he withdrew from everyone. He moved into a tiny, run-down shack on the edge of the highest cliffs, far from the center of the village. For many long months, he lived in isolation. He rarely spoke. He spent his days sitting on a weathered wooden chair, staring endlessly at the restless sea. Night after night, the same painful questions echoed in his mind. What am I without my light? What purpose do I have now? How can I face the people whose lives depended on me? The darkness he had once kept away from others had now settled deep inside his own soul. He felt empty, useless, and completely lost. Then, on one cold and misty evening, when the fog hung heavy over the cliffs, there came a soft, hesitant knock on the door of his shack. Elias opened the door and saw a young girl standing there. Her name was Mira, and she was only 10 years old. In her small hands, she held an old, battered lantern, the simple kind children carried during village festivals. Her father was one of the fishermen who Elias had saved many times in the past. "Mr. Elias," Mira said in a gentle, respectful voice, "my father has told me so many beautiful stories about you. He said you were the bravest man in Seabrook because you never let the light die, no matter how strong the storm. Right now, the village is filled with fear. Ships have stopped coming. Many families are talking about leaving forever. But I still believe in you, Mr. Elias. I believe you can help us again." Elias looked down at the ground, his voice heavy with sadness. "The big lighthouse is gone, little one. There is no light left for me to give anymore." Mira looked up at him with wise, hopeful eyes that seemed far beyond her young age. She smiled softly and replied, "Maybe the big light is gone, but what about the small ones? My grandmother always told me that even the tiniest flame can guide someone safely home, if only someone is brave enough to carry it through the darkness." Those innocent yet profound words from a child stayed with Elias long after Mira had gone home. That night, for the first time in months, he could not sleep. He sat by the small window of his shack, watching the distant waves, and remembered the old lesson his father had taught him many years ago. A true lighthouse keeper does not simply light a lamp. He becomes the light that others need in their darkest moments. The next evening, something inside Elias stirred. He took the small lantern Mira had left behind, he cleaned it carefully, filled it with the little oil he had, and lit the wick with trembling hands. Then he walked slowly to the highest point on the cliffs, the same place where the lighthouse once stood, and held the lantern high. He began swinging it slowly from side to side, just as he had done with the great lamp for so many years. The light was tiny. It looked weak and almost ridiculous compared to the powerful beam of the old lighthouse. At first, the villagers who saw him laughed. "Look at poor Elias," they said. "What does he think that little flame can do against the vast ocean?" But Elias did not stop. Every single evening, regardless of the weather, he returned to the cliffs and held his small lantern high. Night after night, he stood there alone, offering whatever light he could. Then came one particularly stormy night. A large cargo ship was struggling in the rough seas. The captain and crew were terrified as they realized they were heading directly toward the deadly rocks. Suddenly, the captain spotted a faint, flickering glow in the distance. It was small, but it was there. He quickly adjusted the ship's course, and they narrowly avoided disaster. The next morning, the grateful crew sailed into the harbor and asked to meet the man who had saved them. When they learned it was Elias with his tiny lantern, they publicly thanked him in front of the whole village. "Your light, though small, guided us to safety," the captain said. "We are alive because of you." That single event became the turning point. Mira, excited by what had happened, brought her friends to the cliffs the next evening. Each child carried their own small lantern. Soon their parents joined them. Within a few weeks, more than 40 villagers, men, women, and children, stood along the edge of the cliffs every night. Each person held a lantern. Together, their individual small lights created a long, beautiful, and steady chain of illumination that could be seen from many kilometers out at sea. Ships began to return to Seabrook. Fishermen felt safe once again. The markets became busy. Laughter returned to the streets. The village slowly started to heal and regain its hope. Yet the most important transformation happened deep within Elias himself. He finally understood a powerful truth that changed his life forever. One grand, impressive light can be beautiful and strong, but when it disappears, it can leave everyone in total darkness. However, when many small lights come together, lights carried by many ordinary hands, they create something even more powerful, more reliable, and more beautiful. No single person has to carry the entire burden alone. Many years passed. On a calm and beautiful summer evening, Elias, now an old man with silver hair and gentle wrinkles around his kind eyes, stood on the cliffs beside Mira, who had grown into a confident and compassionate young woman. They looked out at the sea, where dozens of small lanterns glowed softly along the coastline, like a string of stars brought down to earth. Mira looked at him with affection and replied gently, "And the most wonderful part, Mr. Elias, is that those small lights did not only save the ships and the fishermen, they also saved you." Elias nodded slowly, his eyes shining with tears of gratitude and joy. For the first time in many long years, he felt truly at peace. He no longer felt empty or useless. He had discovered that real purpose and real light come from within and grow stronger when shared with others. From that day forward, the people of Seabrook no longer waited for one hero or one grand lighthouse to protect them. Whenever a storm approached the coast, they simply lit their lanterns and stood together on the cliffs. Side by side, heart to heart, they became the light themselves. The end. And that was the inspiring story of The Last Lantern here on Mr. USA English. I hope this tale touched your heart, gave you strength, and helped you practice your English listening skills at the same time. If you enjoyed today's story, please show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, and turning on the notification bell so you never miss a new powerful story. Share this episode with your friends and family who are also learning English. It might bring light into their day, too. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. Remember to keep practicing every single day. Keep shining your own unique light, and I'll see you in the next beautiful story. This is Mr. USA English, where stories make English easier, more enjoyable, and more meaningful.